Hello YouTube friends, Carrie Knowles here. If you don't know me, I am a photographer and content creator out of Connecticut, United States. And I wanted to come on and talk to you about one of my favorite quotes and how it can be applied to your marketing strategies and how it benefited me with my last 3 clients. And I actually thought of one more, so I'll give you a bonus one. But I wanted to share how I got those clients with you and those marketing strategies that worked for me. Over the past, well, I've been a professional photographer for 12 years now, but this was particularly in the last 6 months. And it was pretty interesting because I had become really sick this past winter. A lot of people were. I had, bronchitis and pneumonia, the whole thing. And then I did end up getting COVID 3 years after everyone else. It was the first time I got it, so it was a pretty rough winter, but coincidentally, the things that were happening was I was still along the way getting inquiries and getting clients, even though I was homesick. So I just wanted to share with you some of the interesting things that took place and how I was able to still get those clients. So the quote, one of my favorite quotes that helped me along the way was, I attribute it to Oprah: preparation meets opportunity. Preparing small steps along the way. So my 12-year journey along the way, all the steps that I took allowed me in the last 6 months, really the last year almost, to keep getting clients without really doing a whole lot on social media or my website. I had barely updated my website. I have ADHD and dyslexia, so a website is a large undertaking. And I, for a while, like everyone, I had that all or nothing attitude where, I had to do all this stuff and create a website in one day. And that's just not really realistic or how it works. So I like this quote, preparation meets opportunity, because if you take these small preparations, these small steps, and I'm going to give you 4, along the way, it can make a really big impact on whether it's a business or a side hustle, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. But the first client that I wanted to tell you about was in the fall. I received an inquiry and I got the job from a bed and breakfast. A retired couple was renovating, had purchased an antique property and was renovating it, like a fixer-upper, basically, as their retirement project, and they needed photographs and content for it. So they hired me. And the funny thing is that if you look on my website or social media, there's nowhere around that says, there's nothing posted or advertised or marketed that says I do real estate photography. Now, I have done it, so I knew what to do going in there. I traveled the country as a digital nomad in 2021, and for 90 days I photographed food in 26 US states in over 100 restaurants. And along the way I photographed like maybe half a dozen Airbnbs, and the first one I stayed in for free, and then the other few I had gotten paid for. But I had never taken the time to post samples of the pictures or on Instagram, Facebook, my website, nothing. So there's nowhere does it say that I'm experienced in this or I could accomplish this. But just the fact that A, I had a website, and B, I had a an online presence, that's what they refer to it as, and C, I had an About Me page. And the reason they hired me was, it's always attributed to price, like price is always a factor. And they had, I guess they had looked into maybe 3 photographers in the area. One was very high, one was very low, didn't seem experienced. One seemed too high and wanted a certain amount for like every single digital image. And if you go into a branding session, you're gonna photograph hundreds of photos, so that just wasn't realistic for them. And I was priced right. So I had done my research. When they inquired, I knew what I would charge for this already. So, but on my About Me page, I had actually taken a course online of how to create an About Me page years ago, and then took the time, prepared the steps, and prepared the About Me page. And on that page, it said that I was obsessed with Fixer Upper. And at the time, I was going through this Fixer Upper phase and HGTV. And I lived in this old farmhouse and in a small country town. And I just loved this show and this concept and everything about that. And they were renovating this bed and breakfast. So it just seemed like a match that I would be interested in this. And that's what they were doing. And then at the same time, I could photograph it. So it really had nothing to do with my photography at all. But I had taken the necessary preparations to have a website, to have an online presence, to have an About Me page, and to know the pricing for my area. So that was my first tip. That was my first job I wanted to share with you. It's like 4 mini tips within one large tip, right? So having a website was really important because they found my website, they found my About Me page, and they found my social media presence. So, and then they were able to find my email and contact me easily. So all of the steps, they didn't have to do a lot of work. They could go through it with ease and then contact me and we could proceed with the booking. So that's really important. I prepared all those small steps. So that is my first job I wanted to share with you. Client was the bed and breakfast. And my first tip is to make sure you have a website and that you take the small steps along the way. I did not do all of those steps all in one day. I had, maybe a little bit of time for the About Me page after I took that. There was like a mini course online. Maybe some time to update my contact page, maybe some time to make sure I'm on the Google Map and Google Business Suite, and then make sure my social media links are on my website. So it was all coherent and flowed together nicely so that somebody could find me and then work with me, right? All right, so let's get into step number 2. And I have a guest here to say hi. Hi, Sparks. So I'm probably gonna move so that she doesn't keep getting jealous. Let's go in the other room and see if we can do a little filming next to her cat tree. Okay, I am in the other room. Sparky can lay here next to me, and that's her cat tree behind us. Maybe she'll climb up there and say hello. So I wanted to go into the second tip, the second client I wanted to tell you about, and the second tip for marketing in a way with preparing for the opportunity, small steps. So the next client that I had gotten recently was a newborn session. But this particular client booked the whole year. So I had added a baby's first year collection to my website a while ago, but with COVID, people in this area particularly weren't having anyone come into their house and photograph their baby. So I didn't really pay much mind to it, and I think I had photographed a couple of newborns, but I never booked the whole year like that. So they booked the whole year, but they were also a returning client. So this is kind of like a lot of tips packed in one as well. Hi, Toffee's here too. I have 2 cats. So they're both here. They get jealous when I talk on the phone to my kids or FaceTime or record videos or Zoom. Toffee's sick, so you might hear him breathing. We had, I don't know where you are, but there was a lot of smoke coming down here from Canada, and he got really sick last night. So he's on his inhaler. He is doing much better. So the newborn session was a returning client. I had photographed her 2 babies before. So I think that's my second marketing strategy, is to keep your clients coming back for more. So I photographed their first 2 babies. They were boys, and now they had a girl, and they contacted me. They wanted like a kind of coherent look. They even wanted me to use the same hat, the same little bonnet that I had used on the boys, and because it was gray, so it's neutral, and so they could have all 3 of those photos that I took. So a similar Of course, my work has improved over the last 8 years. I think the oldest son might be like 8, and then I think they're like 8 and 4, and then a baby, maybe like that. So yeah, preparation meets opportunity. Along the way, this was a client I asked to actually model, if I could model. I think I knew her, so she was like a friend of the family, and I saw on Facebook that she was pregnant. So I think I even did the maternity session and asked her to model. That was one of my earlier newborn models. So she probably started paying me along the way. And then when she came back, she was like, what are you charging now? I want to pay the package. Like, I want the whole thing. And so they're already paid for the whole year. So I think that's a really good example of preparation meets opportunity. So strategy number 2, keep your clients coming back. The Kit Kats are very happy. I'm petting Toffee right now. So the third client example I wanted to tell you about was a restaurant, and I've been working with them for a couple months. So it's my most recent one. And you can look on my channel. I just posted the video I made for them. So I photographed the items on the menu and then made them a video that they were interested in. I photographed 100 restaurants around 26 United States for DoorDash in 2021. And I kind of, the company, like it was kind of through like a middleman. Like I was kind of freelancing, but a lot more independent than that. But they were, I don't know, switching, and like they went MIA for a while, and then they switched to someone else, and it was kind of disorganized. So I just really wanted to go out on my own. And so this is my third marketing strategy, and some of you may not like it, but when I was sick with COVID, and it was one of those days where it was like, I was feeling better. It was like January, but I still had to stay home. So I took the time to cold email marketing. Like I looked up like a dozen restaurants and a dozen bed and breakfasts, since the bed and breakfast was so successful. I looked up restaurants and bed and breakfasts in my area, and I created an email template, and I created a couple web pages, one with samples of my real estate photography. Remember I told you before I'd never done anything with those photos. I never, showed anyone, put them anywhere, nothing. So I created a whole webpage with the real estate photography, a whole webpage with the food photography, because I'd never done anything with the food either. I was kind of like on the fast track, traveling as a digital nomad, and wasn't really, only just posting like my travels and stuff, fun stuff, So yeah, I lost my train of thought. Where was I? Cold email marketing. I wrote a template and sent it off to 24 brands, a dozen restaurants, and a dozen bed and breakfast. I heard back from one restaurant, so it was like 1%. So that's really good though, because you could not hear from any restaurants, right? And so I did move forward with this restaurant, and they hired me. And I photographed their food and went in and made a video, and the staff was so nice, and they just treated me so great. And of course, one of the best parts about photographing food is you get to take home some of the food. And also, the food doesn't move like a baby. So you don't have to wrap it, you don't have to do anything. So I love food photography. So that was an incredible experience. It was my first restaurant on my own. And of course you get paid more when you work on your own instead of freelancing. Although the downside is that when you're freelancing, that company is doing all the marketing for you. You can see my camera moved because my cat's like moving the tripod. As opposed to when you do it yourself, you're on your own. But like I said, this was the marketing that I did. I hadn't been on social media for months. You can go through my social media accounts, like on Instagram, and see that I had not been on there. There's gaps where I haven't been on for months at a time. And then the bonus one I wanted to share with you was before the bed and breakfast. So we went over the bed and breakfast, the newborn, the restaurant. But before the bed and breakfast, and for the past 6 years, I've had a high school contract where I go in and photograph all of the students in this particular high school. It's usually like 40 to 60 students or something like that. I go in and take all their class photos. I photograph their prom. I create their class photo that gets framed in the hallway of the school. So it's a whole, it takes up a lot of my fall, you know, and then in the spring. So I've been working with them for 6 years, and I just wanted to give you this example because I've also never posted this is not until recently, like it's not something that's out there on social media. I don't have any other high schools. They never even saw my work before I started working there. This would be a networking marketing strategy. So that's tip number 4, network marketing. My son went to the high school. Of course, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? My son went to the high school about 6 years ago, and they did not, he had his picture that year taken by somebody because I found it not too long ago. But I don't think the school and the students were into the whole, 1980s backdrop and sitting on a stool and all of that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like some amazing, amazing photographers do that. But it just wasn't like the culture of these students, and they just didn't want to be bothered with that. And it was just like a lot of work for the administrator. And when I came in and just had them on a stair or in front of a painting or a window, and they went back to the administrators and they were like, oh my gosh, we didn't have to sit on a stool. We didn't have to do this. We didn't have to have a backdrop. Like, it was so easy. And then I made things easy for the school because everything I was doing was formatted and it was size appropriate to match the yearbook. And then my prom photos were in time for the yearbook, and like everything was cohesive. Again, like everything went together. So everything flowed. So if you make things easy, I guess that could be tip number 5, right? This is turning into a long video. But if you make things easy for people to work with you, then they'll want to come back and work with you again. So I've been doing that for 6 years. So that's kind of like a summary of the last 6 months of what I've been doing. Okay? If you have any questions, post them in the comments. And if you like this content, feel free to hit the like button. And hopefully I'll make some more. But I do have some slideshows of past sessions and I think a couple travel videos. So I'm going to keep posting. Bye.